Welcome into episode 3 of the Cheney Chat. I'm Rylee with Andy Helwig. We're your broadcast team here in Tacoma as the Cheney Chat continues. We've had Colt Emerson, Ryland Thomas, who was fantastic last week. And today we're in for another special guest in Casey Lawrence. Casey, who has become just such a fan favorite here around Tacoma, and the career that he has put together speaks for itself. But just so many fun things to talk about with him today. And I think the big thing that stands out is the recent achievement for him and the career milestone that he just achieved.
Yeah, so Casey Lawrence, which would have been 2 appearances ago for him now, or 3 actually at this point, 1,216 career strikeouts, surpassing Paulo Espino, who pitched, forever.
Right.
But since Casey Lawrence debuted in 2010, nobody has recorded more minor league strikeouts than Casey Lawrence, on top of minor league wins in that time, innings, complete games, racking him up. And it's really impressive what he's been able to do for as long as he's been able to do it and stay healthy, be able to accumulate all of those innings and appearances. So really cool to see him get to that milestone. And, when you talk to guys about Casey Lawrence, he knows how to pitch. There are guys that throw, and we've seen guys with great stuff, high velocity throwing 100. Casey Lawrence knows how to pitch to you, move you up and down, get you off balance. And part of the reason that he's been as successful for as long as he has. So a really cool achievement for him.
And you mentioned it there, but a big thing too is I think it stands out just with his veteran presence that he's able to make those adjustments so quickly, makes him pitch to pitch. And you see that with Casey this year, and then also guys like Randy Dobnak and Dane Dunning, and just the veteran presence that we have in this rotation. Yeah,
and I think that's such a huge part. And the pitching has been really good this year. The bullpen's been fantastic, and having those experienced guys has been awesome. And I think I remember a couple of years ago when I was in St. Paul, we had Kevin Millar on the broadcast for a little bit, and he explained it from a hitter's perspective, but it still kind of applies. The good hitters will make an adjustment, from one game to the next. The better ones will do it, from at bat to at bat. The best ones can do it, pitch to pitch. And they can, make those adjustments on the fly. And that comes with experience and being around the game for so long. And Casey, who's, been doing this for 17 seasons now, he knows himself, he knows his stuff, how to work it. And so being able to have that presence and someone that the young guys can lean on too, right, I think is so important. So a rock of this team, a pillar, one of the faces, I think, of the Rainiers over the last handful of seasons, really, for how long he's been here. So super happy to have him.
And finally, one more thing that we got to talk to him about was the experience of last season. It was a wild, wild ride. Anybody will tell you that, especially him. So we kind of dive into that as well, which was really fascinating to hear just the logistics of what goes into that when you have that many changes in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, 6 times. Contract selection, DFA, do it again, go to Toronto real quick.
Yeah.
One time over there, come all the way back again.
Coast to coast. And I don't think I've ever really seen anything like that. No. I'm not sure anyone else will see a transaction log like he had, but I hope he got the flight points. That's right. A big thing.
Get that cross country flight in there and all those trips to Seattle. Hope we get the flight points in the hotel rooms there. But it was, again, if there's a guy that would be able to handle stuff like that, it's him.
So Casey Lawrence, our guest today, we talked to him about that wild ride of last season for him, what he's accomplished so far in his career, maintaining that excellence, and just so much more, things behind the scenes, the family life that you might not know about, and also his basketball career as well. And finally, one of the most important things of this podcast, his affinity for the Epic Sax Gorilla. So lots coming up after this with Casey Lawrence. Stay tuned on the Cheney Chat.
Today's guest on the Cheney Chat has been pitching in professional ranks since 2010, appearing in the major leagues with Toronto, St. Louis, Seattle, and since 2010 has accumulated the most minor league wins, innings pitched, complete games, and strikeouts. Ladies and gentlemen, Casey Lawrence, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you. With all the accolades that he just mentioned, how do you maintain that level of excellence and that consistency for so long in the career that you've put together?
I think I've been well coached, just from top to bottom. Little league, my parents, raised me, and just trying to, follow in the footsteps of them and not embarrass anybody along the way.
And it's got to be tough though, because there's a certain durability factor to that as well. Being able to pitch as many innings as you have each season for as long as you have been doing. How are you able to keep yourself at a level like this for, this stage of your career now?
I think it's one of those things where when I was coming into baseball, the 200 inning starting pitcher was a real thing. And that was something that was kind of groomed in me at a young age. And then carrying that into, the nutrition side or strength and conditioning and the advances that we've had along the way. The Monday off day doesn't hurt anything now. The travel is definitely easier. Hotels have gotten better. So it's just the advancement along the way in all those categories that, have kept me healthy and no surgeries or anything along those lines. And that I've been fortunate from that. So thank God.
You touched on it a little bit there, though. In your professional career since 2010, what are the specific things that have changed throughout that time, really in minor league life and that day to day? What is kind of taking care of more now than it was back then, or how has it changed?
I think just, I mentioned earlier, just the advancements along the way, the type of workouts that we're doing. Gone are the days of putting as much weight as possible on a barbell and trying to throw it around. Just those things that have really helped my body kind of stay in shape for, less of a statement. Just trusting those guys and the education that they've had along the way. Corey's been phenomenal for me these last 3 years and just kind of getting my body to be able to go out there every 5-6 days and give the team a chance to win. The hotels, right. I think just on the road, just being on a good night's sleep and quality food. Now in the clubhouses, gone are the days are just, ham and cheese and a platter of veggies and things like that. So, it's one of those things where, it is kind of all compounded. And I think, obviously the pay for minor leaguers has gotten significantly better. And, as you get older, you get a couple extra bucks thrown on the end. It doesn't hurt anything.
Do you think do you like the schedule format more now, those 6-game series compared to, the 3-4 game trips you used to do pre-COVID?
It just cuts down on the travel. Yeah. The Wednesday day game to hop on a bus 12 hours or hop on a 2 a.m. bus to go to the airport. My body has significantly been rewarded for that. It makes it easier. You're not having those sleepless nights or
sleeping on the bus.
Yeah. Those things, it really wears you down over the course of 162 games. It's honestly, it's harder to travel in the big leagues now than what it is in the minor leagues. You're having the midweek travels, the 3-4 game schedules that you don't have that anymore. Mm-hmm. So it takes a little bit for those younger guys, I think, to get used to that because it's so easy on us in the minor leagues now. It's, we're fortunate.
How have you changed as a pitcher from coming in 2010 to now 2026? I
think it's just trying to get better every day. New pitching coach McCarthy now, adding some things here and there and tweaking some usage things. Seattle's pitching department has always been extremely good. And I've been fortunate to be here, a couple years this time, a few years ago. So, you go into these organizations and you get to see them in different parts. Toronto, I've been fortunate and really kind of taken from these different orgs of what I like from this place and that place and everywhere in between. Fortunate to have a year in Japan and kind of see how they do things. But just trying to be consistent, stick to my routine. It changes a little bit every year, kind of add something, subtract something. But stay healthy. I think that's the biggest thing. And we see across baseball the amount of injuries that we're seeing, and guys are throwing 100 miles an hour, and I don't have that problem. So, whether that's good or bad, I'm not sure. But just one of those things.
With the way that the game has changed and the analytics and all of the resources and numbers that are available at your disposal, how do you kind of adapt to that year to year? And how do you think that has helped kind of move the game along? Or what is your thought process on that?
It's something that can definitely be a black hole. You can really dive deep down into it and, get into the mud. And it can hurt you, it can help you. And it's just, kind of finding what works for you. And I think, 17 years in now, I've kind of really been able to find out who I am and what I do well and what I don't do well. And you try and do the things you do well more than the things you don't do well. And you go out there and you battle with what you have that day. Numbers wise, I think we've come a long way in, collecting the data, but now knowing how to use the data and how that can benefit each pitcher. There's things where, what may work for me may not work for Troy Taylor. Mm-hmm. What works for Troy Taylor may not work for me. And I think it's really been individualized. And I think Seattle does an incredible job of, you know, keeping it simple for us, breaking it down for pitchers, and really saying, hey, here's kind of the guts of what we value, and go out there and execute this, and it'll give you a chance not only to be successful here, but make the next step to the big leagues.
Let's talk about 2025. That was a wild year for you, and one of the craziest transaction logs I'll probably ever see. When you look back at that season, what will you remember about it?
Being a part of a really good team, both places, and that makes it easy to do those things and, swallow your pride and get sent down and sign back and do those things because you want to be a part of a winning team. Mm-hmm. And I think it makes it so much easier. You accept your role. You go up there, you do it to your best ability, and if you can kind of sleep at night and you know that I did everything I could, that's all you can do. Obviously, going to the big leagues, you want to stay and be a part of a team for 162 games and go to the ALCS and try and help them win. But, at the end of the day, you're trying to be a piece of the team, and, sometimes that's swallowing your pride and getting sent down and doing those things. Every now and then you have a day trip to Toronto and come back day later, but it was honestly, it was fun. There's parts of it that you really got to grind through and keep things in perspective, and the times that I'm sitting there throwing plyos into the couch because I got nobody to play catch with, and the next night you're standing in the Rogers Center with a Toronto Blue Jay uniform on trying to get the Boston Red Sox out. Things that go on behind the scenes that not everybody really knows, but you're not going to make an excuse. You're going to take the ball and go try and give kind of whatever organization or team the chance to win.
Logistically, in that whole year last year, from your family standpoint, you had a new baby come as well. How do you navigate that and just kind of try to maintain that sense of normalcy throughout it all?
I think you learn to understand that normal now is not what normal used to be. I think it's thank God I'm married to the woman I am, because she put up with a lot of things last year while being pregnant and me flying across the country to a different country and things like that. There was times where Jack Mossman would be calling, and instead of asking me, hey, you want to come up? It was, hey, can I talk to your wife?
Right.
Sarah, can we borrow Casey for a couple of days? We're blessed. We have really, my in-laws are fantastic, and my parents are great. They're traveling out here a lot of times, and spring trainings they're spending with us and really trying to help take the weight off of managing 3 kids. I always joke the off season now is really the season, and the season is now kind of the off season, because I get out of the crazy household and she kind of holds down the fort.
How did that play with when Toronto claimed you? I mean, because you had already gone through the song and dance of the contract selection DFA a couple of times. Yep. Toronto claims you. Walk me through when you found out you got claimed and got to fly across the country now to go pitch for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, Jack Mossman would normally give me a call 2-3 days in when I would clear waivers, and I could tell by the tone of his voice it was different. And it was weird because the night before I actually read an article, and Toronto had been kind of in the boat for needing some depth starters and some multi-inning relievers and things like that. I had a weird inkling that something maybe happened. We had been in Toronto like a week or two before, and I talked with some of the people that I know really, really well there. And Jack called and he goes, hey, you're not going to believe who claimed you. And when he said that, I knew right away. So had a call from them, and Toronto kind of explained that they needed a starter Wednesday. So they were like, how fast can you get here? Because it was Monday. I kind of packed one bag. Sarah and the kids stayed behind. I hopped on a flight, got there probably 2 hours before the game on Tuesday, played catch. They were pretty much explaining that you're probably going to start Wednesday, but kind of go to the bullpen and just in case, emergency only. And one of my good friends had a tough start against Boston, and about the second inning, the phone rang, and when you're in that role, you kind of know what's about to happen, and you kind of see it happening. And that phone rang early, and I thought, I know who that's for. Mm-hmm. And I kind of got the side eye from our bullpen coach and gave him the thumbs up. And about an inning later, I was standing on the mound trying to get 4 or 5 innings in Toronto. And, the next day you get called into the office, and it's like, hey, we're going to make a move. And you joke around with it. You kind of give the no way type, answer. And, about less than 24 hours from landing in Toronto, I was landing back here in Seattle and going through the whole song and dance again.
And so when you get to Toronto, I mean, obviously you had spent some years in their organization, so there's some familiar faces, but what's the process for just getting, I mean, are you drinking from a fire hose in terms of getting ready to pitch against Boston, trying to get to know who's going to catch you while you're there? What's that process like of just trying to get ready for a game on such short notice like that?
Right. Obviously, going back to Toronto, I'd spent parts of 10 plus years in and out of that organization. So I had a really good understanding of who was there. John Schneider being the manager there now, Pete Walker's still the pitching coach. You know, there's a lot of familiar faces. Ross Atkins, my college baseball coach. Oh. Jeff Filer went to school with Ross at Wake Forest. So like connecting the dots, you know, still real good friends with Bowden, Ernie Clement, those kind of guys still there. So it makes it easy to walk in there. It was the first game of the series. So walking in, still getting the pitching report, going through the pitching meetings. So you try and keep it as much the same as possible, whether it's here or in the big leagues. And I think just that routine of it keeps some normalcy to it. And you try not to kind of get too far outside the box, other than, trying to move it into a hotel room. What's the family doing? There's a lot of, outside things, but you're a professional and you put those things aside and you go out there and do your job.
What was it about Seattle that made you want to re-sign with them this season and continue on your career here?
I always say the people.
Right.
Every spring training we sit down, we have a meeting, and Dan the last 2 years have mentioned the people, and that's a big separator. And I've been fortunate. Every organization I've been a part of, the people have been incredible, and that's why, I feel the need to go back, and you want to see things through. And being a part of Toronto or Seattle, St. Louis was fantastic. I was with Minnesota, like you said, just, during that COVID year. But just the people, it makes it easy to show up to work and play hard for good people that work hard. And you have that sense of family. A lot of places talk about it, they preach it, but how many actually go through and do it? When you have an organization like Seattle, they carry on their word.
Your start on Thursday in the doubleheader was your 83rd appearance with Tacoma, the most appearances you made with any one team in the minor leagues, just past Buffalo. You had 82 with. How does it go about building a relationship with a city and, place you might not be in for a long time, but you've spent a good chunk of your career with Tacoma? How do you go about building a relationship with a city and, the fans here in Tacoma?
I think I've been fortunate being a lot of time in Tacoma and Buffalo that you mentioned is like, it's a baseball town. We're fortunate that we're close to Seattle. Buffalo was close to Toronto. So you have a lot of those fans that are, they're showing up here to support you. They show up in Seattle and come say hi. And it makes it easy to show up. We get great support here. Friday nights are always electric when you show up and you got, a few thousand people. You got fireworks after, it just makes it easy. It makes it easy. You see familiar faces and, they're cheering you on and they're positive, and it makes it easy to play for those kind of fans. Obviously in the big leagues, it's hard. There's different expectations, but it's that local small sense of community. And I grew up in a small town. So that's what I grew up with. So it makes it kind of easy to set some roots. And, we've been fortunate. We've been able to rent the same house here, just in Gig Harbor. And in just that little community there, it's always nice to come back and see those people and, help. They help raise the kids, to be honest. I mean, watch our dog every now and then. And it's just, we're blessed.
You talk about the atmosphere here at Cheney Stadium, and it's been a thing now that everybody knows that you have a thing for Epic Sax Gorilla, your affinity for him. What is it about the gorilla that you like?
Just the energy that he or she brings. I'm not sure who's in the costume. That's the other thing. Is there's a little sense of who is that? Do I see them in my normal day?
Sure.
So I don't see you guys during the game, so I don't know who that is. So I have my suspicions. So, but it's just those little, quirky things about minor league baseball and mascots and ballparks. And I enjoy that. I enjoy it's different. And the fans love it. So, I try to, play off of it as best I can. We had a start. It was either 17 or 18. Christian Bergman warmed up on the mound with the Epic Sax Gorilla playing beside him. So I always tell Ashley, I go, hey, what do I got to do to have that happen? She goes, all right, we'll work on it. So I'm still waiting. So I still bug Ashley.
I think we can make that happen.
I need it to happen one of these days. I don't know how JR is going to respond to it. We'll see.
You've been around for a while. I think you got some pull, right?
Yeah, we'll find out, I guess. Yeah.
When it comes to pull with JR, now you've, like I said, most complete games since 2010 in the minor leagues. When you're out there and you're getting close to maybe your count later in the game, manager comes out. Have you been able to sway the decision every now and then to try and get yourself into the game a little farther?
I always watch him because, he's kind of a creature of habit too. And, I love JR and, I'd watch him. And if he doesn't give the point right away out of the dugout, I know I got a chance to talk myself into it. Now, the last 2 times I talked myself into staying in, it hasn't gone great. So I need to get better at that so that way he doesn't point so fast. But he's great. Even when I have that feeling of when he's getting close, when I'm getting close, and he'll get near me in the dugout, and I'll just kind of like look the other way or kind of slightly turn my back to him. And he responds good to it. And I think he knows, we have a really good group of guys that want the baseball. Mm-hmm. So I try not to give it up at any point because, you never know when you're going to get it back. Right. So that's kind of the way I've been taught in my career is just you take the ball when they give it to you and you have to give it back when they ask for it, but you can kind of try and, persuade them to keep it.
What are those conversations like? I mean, how can you go about persuading a manager?
Normally I'll just give them the old, did you point or can I talk you out of it? And he'll just look at me and I'll kind of give him the head and he'll turn around and walk the other way. If it's on the mound. In the dugout, he'll just kind of come up to you and give the old, how do you feel? And good. And as long as he puts his head down and goes the other way, I know I can, head back out for another one. But it's fun.
As a leader in this clubhouse and in the rotation, how do you approach your leadership role and just the younger guys that are coming up?
I think it's one of those things where I had really good leaders. I was coming up, so you're trying to take kind of what was special about each one of those and kind of put it together and realize and be understanding of how the game's changed in certain ways. And understanding of, guys now at the AAA level are, young, really young to what I first experienced. My first year or two in AAA, I had guys that were 12, 15-year big leaguers, Randy Wolfs, the Casey Kochmans, the Eric Kratzes that had a lot of time in the big leagues. And they were, AAA is really, really tricky. You have a lot of young guys on their way up, and you have older guys that are trying to fight and get back. Mm-hmm. And it's a tough dynamic. So you're trying to have that sense of winning here. And if you keep that and the understanding that, the young guys need to learn how to win, the older guys want to win because winning cures everything and it keeps that clubhouse sane from a AAA standpoint and knowing that guys are trying to get out of here. Mm-hmm. It's a tough, song and dance to worry about, but we've been really, really fortunate the 3 years that I've been here. The last few years when I was in Buffalo, the quality of people, going back to the quality of people, it makes it easy when you got good people in that room that are kind of fighting for the same thing with the understanding of nobody's rooting against anybody. Whereas, you had some times when I was younger where you weren't quite sure if they were cheering for you or not. I think, we have a really good group of guys that we're out there trying to win every night for these fans in Tacoma and then go make an impact in Seattle.
You've pitched in other countries, you've got some experience with the Premier 12, pitching over in the Tokyo Dome. What does American sports need to adopt that you've experienced pitching elsewhere?
Ooh, there's a couple things. Okay. So over in Japan, they do some quirky stuff.
Yeah.
Mainly hitters. The quick batting practice, not only is that going on with quick flips and they hit 200 in a row, which I don't know how they go through it. But batting practice over there, you have 4 guys hitting batting practice at one time. You'll have guys on either side hitting off a tee or soft toss, and you have 2 guys in the middle hitting off live arms. So you have 4 balls flying in the outfield. You're playing dodgeball as a pitcher out there while you're shagging and stuff. But you see a lot of guys get a lot of swings in from that standpoint. Playing winter ball over in Venezuela or the Premier 12 or, like you said, in Japan, the fans, the instruments and stuff that you hear, kind of like the WBC, it almost makes it like a soccer match to where, fans aren't just kind of sitting there on their phone, but they're involved. The chants over in Japan, every player has their own individual chant. So it's like getting used to all that kind of stuff, but it makes the energy in the stadium kind of not as good as the Epic Sax Gorilla, but it magnifies it. It does.
Do you remember what your chant was?
No. Couldn't even understand it. Well, the great thing about playing in those other countries is you don't know if they're cheering for you or booing you. When you go on the road, you just pretend like they're cheering for you, and it kind of gets you going a little bit.
What is the Tokyo Dome like? You hear so many people talk about it and just how it's a surreal experience. What do you remember from your time there?
I think it's one of those things where, you hear the epic stadiums in the big leagues. You hear about, the Wrigley's, the Fenways, old Yankee Stadium, those kind of places. It's just like the aura when you go in there, like special people have stepped on that mound. And then it's funny because it's connected to a hotel. And when I played with the Premier 12, we stayed at that hotel. So like you kind of go underground and it's a little quirky, and it's like walking into a mall where there's like double doors and you have to close a door before you open another door. And it's like the things like that, but mainly the history, knowing, who's played in there, who's come before you, and, the type of talent that's there before you and after you. It's pretty special.
That's it. I think we got.
We have to talk about basketball.
We do have to talk about.
You're a basketball guy, so I was waiting for you to bring that one up.
Albright College.
Yep.
Two-sport athlete, right?
Originally, yes.
Originally,
yeah.
What position were you playing basketball?
Shooting guard.
Shooting guard. Mm-hmm. What kind of numbers were you putting up?
Oh, I couldn't tell you what my college number. I didn't get a ton of time on the varsity team.
Okay.
So originally I was probably like 8th, 9th guy in the rotation. So I was getting good time playing at the shooting guard position. You're coming off the bench, you're not getting a ton of shots early. Got sick around Thanksgiving, lost some playing time there. And really just trying to get my feet wet in college basketball was different. That was different because, bigger, faster, stronger, even at the Division III level, is a real thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was harder for me to adapt to that than it was on the baseball diamond. But I can still shoot it a little bit.
I heard it was the 2024 Mariners spring training 3-point contest you won. Is that right?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Yeah, it was 24. You're right.
Who else could shoot it?
I beat JP. In the final, JP went first, and he only put up 12 or 13. And before I shot, I was like, "That's not enough."
You knew
I can
do that.
I can do that. I had a bad showing in the free throw contest this year, and I'm still a little rattled about it. I'm disappointed. I came home. My mom and dad were both in town for spring training. And he was like, "You seem a little off." What? I was like, "We had the free throw thing today, and I was like 8 for 10, and it was just like disappointed in myself."
8 for 10 didn't get it done?
No, it was bad. I got to be better than that. I like I said, I'm still disappointed about it. But, well, I'd rather, if I got to sacrifice something, I'll sacrifice the free throw and put up some better numbers on the mound.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. I think we've covered it all. We've got all the hard hitters, and now we know to vouch for you for the Epic Sax Gorilla. We're going to make it happen.
Please.
We'll see him out there.
Yeah. I like that.
Once again, Casey Lawrence, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Huge thanks again to Casey Lawrence for coming to hang out with us up here for a couple minutes. Always a good time getting to hang out and learn from a guy who's just been around the block so many times, 17 seasons with him. And I cannot wait for his next start in this ballpark to see if we can get the Epic Sax Gorilla down to the mound with him as he's warming up.
Well, we've seen and we've heard that that's a thing. Like even on media day, he was just telling us after we finished shooting this that there was a game with Go Fish and they got to pick a prize, and it was a random prize, and he picked the Epic Sax Gorilla. So it's kind of fate, and it's just a thing that I think we need to make happen. You talked about it too. I think he has enough pull around this ballpark. Yeah. He's been around 83 games now here in Tacoma that I think we should make it happen. And if he's up for it, then I think we should definitely do it.
So then he's going to warm up to the get his warm up pitches into the Epic Sax Gorilla music. Then I would figure, right? That's which is kind of a strong. That's a strong warm up music if he's going to go with that.
Yeah.
I remember there was one year when I was in St. Paul, we were playing in Iowa, and Iowa had lost like 8 games in a row.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to find something to get off the losing skid. And Dan Straley was pitching that day.
Mm-hmm.
Again, longtime Major League veteran. So those guys have some pull, right?
Right.
And so he was playing, he told the press box people to loop that Epic Sax loop and it played for like 3 hours straight, like as they were taking BP, as guys were warming up on the field. And I got there probably midway through, but like after 20 minutes, I was just locked in filling my book out and stuff. And I like, wait a second. This has been playing the whole time. And then like every time it would start looping again, he just started laughing harder and harder because it just kept on going. So I think this is something Casey can pull off. And I'm looking forward to when that happens.
It's very catchy. It's got a good rhythm to it. Probably good for
Gets me fired up.
Just getting into a good rhythm early on. Another thing though that we just talked to him about as he was leaving is he said that he could be interested in joining a part of this podcast as a regular guest, which sold.
Yeah, we can do the Casey Corner presented by X. Insert sponsor there. We can get Casey to interview some of the guys. I think that would be fun. Because it's so funny watching how he builds these relationships with the guys who've been around and the new guys. Like Victor Labrada, for example. Like we had the video on the video board of when Victor came up to bat with Casey Lawrence in the clubhouse. Now batting number 4, Victor Labrada. Like he did the whole thing.
Insert it here. Yeah.
lay it over here.
Yeah.
Now batting, left fielder, number 4, Victor Labrada!
But it's so cool watching him build those relationships with the whole clubhouse, and obviously a huge component in terms of leadership in that clubhouse and setting the culture. I think that we see here with the Rainiers that, is a part of what they've built up in Seattle.
That was a really good point that he made too. And something I know you and I both now in our second season here, but that's something unanimously, I think whenever anybody asked me after my first season, what was the year like? What did you appreciate? I always found myself talking about the people and just how special this organization is. I think you see it from the top down. Seattle sets that tone too with just the players that they draft. And then also here in Tacoma, as he mentioned, it's a really fun baseball city. It's people that care about this team, that are invested, who have been around, and their grandparents have watched these games. And now they get to come to the games, and you can just tell and you get that essence of how special baseball is here. And I think that's, like he said, one of the reasons that he's wanted to continue playing here. And that's, I think, something that translates for everybody.
And it just makes it more fun to be around.
Yeah.
From the players to the coaches to front office personnel, the Mariners, I think, do a really good job of just getting good people, and it makes the job easier for everybody. It makes it more fun, and they're also pretty good at what they do too.
Yeah.
The players, last year, 86 wins, and they can do that on top of being just good people to everybody else. And I think that makes it so much better. And like we said, Casey is a huge part of that, of building that culture around here, and he didn't say it himself, but I will, I think he's a huge part of building that culture that's in that clubhouse.
And there's so many fun things too around Tacoma. I know you and I both, like, now in our second season, we've gotten a chance to kind of get a feel for where we're living and things like that. He was talking too about how his family has grown up here. The kids have been raised here. And there are just so many things about this community, I think, that are really special. And you definitely feel that.
Yeah, he talked about getting to see, Mount Rainier out of his back porch, and he's been here far longer than both of us have, but it still never gets old, just the aura around here, there's something special to it. And, they notice it, we notice it being newbies around here, and it's super special.
It was all around a really special episode and lots of exciting stuff that we talked about with Casey Lawrence today. So once again, a big thanks to him for spending some time with us. That's Andy Helwig. I'm Rylee Pay, and this was episode 3 of the Cheney Chat.
Bye.